A 4-year journey comes to an end. A beast like I've never seen. I summon thee. The true bats in flight. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I knew 2024 was going to be special for some reason, but I didn't know it was the year I would get all the bats. Oh my goodness. I found one. And let me say, it was definitely worth the wait. Not gonna lie, when I first saw photos of this, I was a little bit scared how it was going to look in person because as compared to the stock photography, the purple isn't quite as vibrant as I was expecting. It's very subtle. However, it actually works really well. It's almost like a trans black with just a slight purple tint to it. And I always kind of thought the backs of these were just completely black and it was trans black, but now that I have it in person, it's pretty much the same thing. It's a very dark purple, including the back. If you get it in the light just right, you can see through to the wood grain. I did not know to expect that. But I am so happy to finally say I have the bats. But in case you missed our previous episodes this month, the Bats in Flight was a Guitar Center exclusive model, first introduced for the 2018 model year. It was initially a retheming of a high-end Gibson acoustic guitar called the Doves in Flight, except for we took the doves and made them bats, and it was a Cobra Burst-like trans black finish. But then in 2019, they followed that up with a purple version of the acoustic, and then they released the iconic Les Paul that we're going to be talking about today. Then in 2020, they decided to do it again, this time in blood red finish for the acoustic and the Les Paul, and at this time, an Epiphone offering was released. However, I don't think it was ever for sale in the United States. They were made in Indonesia and primarily sold in China, it seems. But happy Halloween! The Bats' journey is finally complete. Ah, yes, to see them all, finally! There hasn't been a modern guitar like this that I've lusted over in a long time. I'm kind of sad to see the journey end, but absolutely elated to have these in my collection. At first I was kind of scared the purples would be kind of redundant, but you can tell they made this a much more vibrant purple than they ended up doing on the Les Paul. Or perhaps there's variations within the series itself. I'm quite happy with this. Poor blood red just got shot way too dark. However, when you get this thing in the sun, like you can see in these awesome B-roll shots, it is a gorgeous thing. But for the rest of our intro segment here, I want to talk about the differences between the two Bats Les Pauls because this is significantly different. The first difference is actually the case style. The 2020 Bloodthirsty Bats comes in that kind of modern style gray interior with the black exterior looking case. That's not that big of a deal. But if you look over here, this guitar just has regular 7-ply binding, which is a really nice fancy attribute of a Les Paul Custom. However, our purple friend over here is more akin to like a Les Paul Ultima, these super crazy fancy ultra figured inlaid things. In the fact that we actually have different binding over here. It looks like it's about 3-ply and you get the abalone purfling along it. So they put abalone shell along the entire edge, which I think just looks great on this model because when I think about bats, I think about vampires, and vampires are supposed to be like really well dressed, things like that. So it's going to be a little bit more out there and fancy. It works with that vibe. Now, as far as our bats, it's still regular mother of pearl, so not necessarily an Ultima in that case, since we don't have like abalone everywhere, but I don't know if abalone would have looked good or not. But it's due to that this thing was bumped up to the Crimson division. If you haven't ran into one of these before, this is the custom shop above the custom shop. It's where things go to get super ultra treatment. It's called Crimson Division because of the red tape that adorns them as they go through the process. You can read a little bit about that right here on this side of the COA. But the whole blood red COA works really well with this thing too, but it gets listed as a Les Paul Custom Bats officially on the COA. That's cool. And we've got our serial number there dating it to 2019. And nothing against Bloodthirsty over here, but it was just regular custom shop, but it was still called Bats on the COA. If you're wondering why I keep saying that, some fancy Les Paul Customs that dealers give fancy names to, they aren't actually called anything differently internally. And that's a big difference in my eyes as a collector. I guess now that I have them in person, you can definitely tell there is a difference between the maple that they were using. Like, this is nothing to sneeze at, right? I still love Bloodthirsty, don't get me wrong, but you can tell there's just something a little bit different about the quilts that they were using over here. Or to be fair, it might just be the finish, because even my Dragon Les Paul that was finished very similarly, the double staining technique just doesn't allow the top to move that much. But believe it or not, brand new, these were the exact same price, $8,000. If I saw these side by side, I know which one I would be choosing. But you're probably curious, how many of these did they make? We don't exactly know, but it's rumored to be between 8 and 10. Even finding photos of purple ones has been difficult. And as far as the red ones, I've only been able to document about 4. So, if you own a Bats, and you've been scared to contact me because you thought I was going to make you an offer you couldn't refuse, you don't have to be scared anymore. Please send me more photos of these. I want to compile them just for fun because I love the Bats model. I collect animal-influenced guitars because it's something that makes me happy. But you know what? There's something else that I didn't notice between these. Purple Bats doesn't have a poker chip, but red Bats does. I've also heard rumors that the purple ones might have some sort of a weight relief. We'll have to throw that on the workbench to find out. However, I know what you're all dying to know. How did I eventually finally come across this guitar? Well, the Acoustics we learned in this episode. A collector had both of them, he needed some money, so I bought it from him. But the purple one, I've been begging and pleading for years to find one. But a recent viewer of the show, who's a teacher in the California area, reached out to me saying he was thinking about selling this guitar. Do I know anything about the market? Can he book a private help session? And this is one of those rare times when it's like, give me your phone number, let's talk. Just know, if I want to talk to you on the phone, that's a big compliment, because generally I just do my business online via text. So I explained to him what this could be worth, how he could list it, but then I also told him I have been looking for this guitar, and he didn't know that at that point in time. So I did make him an offer there, and he said, all right, well, I'm not quite ready to sell it yet. I will let you know when I am. So when we recorded the red Bats in Flight model, and I teased you guys at the end, or do I already have one? I didn't know I was buying this guitar yet, so of course I had to continue on the hunt. But after that video aired, I thought, well, should I reach out to him again, see if he's ready to go? But I decided not to. I was gonna let him come to his own terms if he wants to sell it to me or for what price. But then by golly, about a week later when I'm coaching Little League Soccer, I get the text, I'm ready to sell. And it's like, oh man, can't wait for this game to get over. So I send him the shipping supplies, give him the label. Had to pay way too much for this thing. The last one sold for 10 grand. Yes, we did set a new record. But you know what? I don't care. I have no interest of selling this guitar ever, unless I find a different one. I mean, if you want to sell a batch, sure, hit me up, I'll buy more. But my default is to leave people anonymous, but he didn't want that, because even he was on the fence. He's not necessarily a super I gig all the time guitar player, but all his friends said, think very, very closely before you let that one go. Because how he came to own it is he was the original owner. He saw an advertisement on Guitar Center's website. Being in the California area, there was actually one at a store, so he walked in and he just fell in love with it and took it home. He didn't care about the collectability of it, it just spoke to him. But he decided to sell it to me rather than put it on Reverb, since he didn't have a PayPal and all that other good stuff set up. And because he wanted the video that everybody sees to be part of him. So his name is Sam De La Rosa. Thank you, man. The journey's finally over, and it's all thanks to you. I love this Bats, and yes, people will see it at the Future Museum. So happy Halloween, everybody. I know we went a little bit bat crazy, and maybe watching the same video 3 different times just with different guitars isn't as exciting as previous years, but I'm just so elated that we finally have this in the collection. So let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench, get it cleaned up. It's not too dirty, but it could definitely shine a little bit more. And then we'll finally get to a playing sample of our Purple Beast. When Sam first sent me some photos of this one, I was honestly let down at first. The top and color was not what I was expecting, as we were talking about earlier. But now that it's here, I can easily say this has exceeded my expectations. And I was really scared because I've always put this thing on a pedestal. But now that it's all shined up, our abalone's looking great. But now let's detail our specs. First off, our pickups. Very similar to the red one. Both models utilized the custom buckers. Bridge reads 8.06 k ohms, neck position 8.03. and the middle for fun 4.02. As far as our neck pickup cavity, it's a long neck tenon, but we do have a little bit of paint over it, so it's a little bit harder to see the 5-piece maple neck running in there, but it is present. And our bridge pickup cavity was left natural, making it so you can still see your maple top joining onto your mahogany body. So far, I don't see any signs of it being a chambered guitar. But now let's talk about the bridge and tailpiece. Now, is it this one gets an ABR1 and the other one's Nashville? No, for whatever reason, they went Nashville style on this one too. This one cleaned up okay, but some sweat/fingerprints were left on it, and it has slightly discolored the bridge right here. If you ever wonder why sometimes I wear a white glove, it's because my hands will leave fingerprints like that too, and I don't like that on guitars that I just spent 2 hours cleaning. You'd think it'd be easy to remember to wipe it off, but sometimes it doesn't show up right away. But it is a full weight tailpiece. I was heartbroken. We've got our original witch hat knobs, right? When I first got this guitar, they didn't stay on at all. They would just fall off, and I do my usual trick of just slightly bending the prongs, but this metal is super weak. 2 of the pots broke, which is just devastating, but at least I have one of the prongs. I was able to stuff the knobs, and they do work, but yeah, that's part of the history of this one now. At least both prongs didn't break, because then I would be out of luck. Just like our other baddie friend, we do not have a pick guard on this one at all. However, I was looking at the old product sheet for this one and some of the marketing materials, and they do indeed double stain this one as well. That's how you get the black in between. This nice light purple lets the wood dance, but for whatever reason, the red just doesn't do it quite as much justice. This one is just fantastic. It's funny how just changing a couple of things changes the entire feel of the guitar. Moving on from our 2-piece maple top and mahogany body, we've got that 5-piece maple neck with an ebony fretboard. That's kind of cool about this is you can't just all of a sudden make a Halloween signature guitar. It takes time for Gibson to do this, and if they were produced in early 2019, as our serial number suggests, that means these were designed by Guitar Center probably around the end of 2018, so we're still technically within the Henry J era, and getting the ebony fretboard on this would have been special because you're on the tail end of Richlight still being used. So I brought that up on the red one that was kind of special. This one is definitely special. But it's the regular 24 3/4-inch scale with a 12-inch fretboard radius and a nut measuring 1.69 inches, 2.08 at the 12th, 0.85 first fret neck depth, and nearly 1 by the 12th. Here's a look at that neck profile at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. This neck feels really nice and rounded C shape. Although I was sad to not see abalone shell side marker inlays. I think that would have been cool and matched our top purfling. So not exactly like an Ultima. Now, being the tail end of the Henry J era, you've got tooling marks on this fretboard, well, some like deeper grain within it. It's not perfect, however, there is a big flaw on this guitar. See if you can spot it. It might not overly stand out until I point it out. There's a bad case of delamination happening around our Gibson logo. That is not very common to see on a guitar of this age. Now in the 90s, yeah, that'll happen, but it is occurring around each of these inlays. And you can also see right here on the truss rod cover. Sadly, that is eventually going to flake away and chip one day, so we might have to refinish the face of the headstock, but I'm not going to bother with it until it gets really bad. But you get to see all our fun little bat friends, just like on our other one. Our truss rod is in functioning shape. Our truss rod cover is just the regular Les Paul custom version. Moving on to the back, I discovered something kind of interesting after cleaning it. There is a little bit of flamed figuring within this mahogany back. It's just completely straight across. It's not enough to say, yes, super flamed back, crazy, but you know, it's there, it's nice. But I'm just ecstatic that this is not a straight up ebony back like I thought it was. It's a dark purple just like the top, and it has some decent wood grain underneath it. Here's what our control cavity is looking like. Just your standard Gibson branded pots in all 4 locations. Regular ceramic disc capacitors. Pretty basic as far as all things are considered. But I can confirm, this is not chambered like an Ultima. Which honestly, I'm kind of sad about, but then these probably would have been like 12,000, 15,000 new. So think of it more so as a dressed up Les Paul custom. We've got our output jack on the side, regular strap buttons in our usual locations. And here's a quick peek at our toggle switch. Its backplate is one of the medallions. And the other backplate is your regular plastic one. This is really good lighting to see the difference in color between the body and the neck. As I was telling you earlier, this is more so like a very muted purple, similar to the top. Not trans black like I initially thought. But that's some good figuring on this one. But if you zoom in, you can still see your 2 pieces of walnut running up the center. I forgot to show you along the side of the neck. You can also see the thin binding in the cutaway. Really hard to see due to reflections, but it is there. But there's our Gibson Custom Shop decal, and just regular Grover tuners here. Our serial number dates it to 2019, production number 694, so produced fairly early in the year, because that's just your running production number. Thankfully, I didn't see any like major nicks or dings on this guitar, just a few small QC things. But all said and done, our vampire friend here weighs 9 pounds, 8.9 ounces. Not too bad. Let's go ahead and hear how this one sounds. So there we go. Purple Bats in Flight. Finally got it. Played it. Did some Avenged Sevenfold. It's exactly what these things are meant to do. I'm plenty happy with this. If you can find one, congratulations. You are among the few lucky enough to own one, and I am so happy to finally be part of the Bats Club. In fact, just call me the president of the Bats. Maybe next year I'll have to pick up one of those overpriced Epiphones just to have some more Halloween fun. But 2024 was definitely the year of the Bats. But this one, it's just like the red one, honestly. The pickups sound really good, clean, like surprisingly good, but they also dirty up quite nicely. But at the end of the day, they're not like EMG active pickups or anything like that. You don't have a Sustainiac. It's nothing necessarily overly special as far as Les Pauls go outside of the looks. So, I mean, a Les Paul Studio is going to get you in very similar territory, but this is more so a collector's model. And again, Sam, thank you for selling me this guitar. I am very happy to have it in my collection. So, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed our spooky season. It's officially over. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll check you guys out tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day, and you might even enjoy this next one.